Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the M25 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times. Although I have all the reports and all the witnesses, and have cross-referenced them to within a millimetre using my Ordnance Survey maps, I still cannot find the location. You would think there would be marks to serve as some sort of evidence. It is somewhere between the Sanford turnoff and the Welkin brake services. Although I can always see it in my rearview mirror, I as of yet have not been able to pull ashore. Climbing down to the caves, I slipped and injured my leg. I think the femur's broken. It's clearly infected. The flesh has turned a bright, tight pink, and the pain came crushing in on waves. Winter tides against my shoreline, drowning out the ache of my stones. I struggled back to the bothy for rest, but it has become clear that there is only one way this is likely to end. The medical supplies I looted from the trawler seem to have finally found their purpose. They will keep me lucid for my final ascent. When you were born, your mother told me a hush fellow with a delivery room. A great red birthmark covered the left side of your face. No one knew what to say, so you cried to fill the vacuum. I always admired you for that you cried to fill whatever vacuum you found. I began to manufacture vacuums, just to enable you to deploy your talent. The red birthmark had faded by the time you were 6, and had completely gone by the time we'd met, but your fascination with the empty and its cure remained. Dear Esther, the gulls do not land here anymore. I have noticed that this year they seem to shun the place. Perhaps it's the depletion of the fishing stock driving them away. Perhaps it's me. When he first landed here, Donnelly wrote that the herds looked sickly, and that shepherds were the lowest of the miserable classes that inhabited these Hebridean islands. 300 years later, it seems even they have departed. I had kidney stones, and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in the anaesthetic, your outline and your speech started to blur. Now my stones have turned into an island, and made its escape, and you've been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk. There were chemical diagrams on the mug he gave me coffee in, still sticky at the handle where his hand shook. He worked for a pharmaceutical company, with offices based in the outskirts of Wolverhampton. He'd been travelling from a sales meeting in Exeter, outlining his vision to peddle a new antacid yogurt to the European market. You could trace the connections with your finger, join the dots, hoping new compounds would summon into activity. He still maintains that he wasn't drunk, but tired. I can't make the judgment or the distinction anymore. I was drunk when I landed here, and tired too. I climbed up the cliff path in near darkness, and camped in the bay where the trawler lies beached. It was only at dawn when I saw the bothy, and I decided to make my temporary lodgings there. I was just expecting an aerial and a transmitter stashed in a weatherproof box somewhere on the mount. It had an uneasy sense of permanence to it. Like all the other buildings here, it seems erosion had evaded it completely. Donnelly's book from the library had not been taken out since 1974. I decided it would never be missed, as I slipped it under my coat, and avoided the librarian's gaze on the way out. If the subject matter is obscure, the writer's literary style is even more so. It is not the text of a stable or trustworthy reporter. Perhaps it is fitting that my only companion in my last days is a stolen book written by a dying man. Returning to my car afterwards, hands still shaking, my head split open by the impact. Goodbye to tearful aunts and traumatized uncles. Goodbye to the phenomenal. Goodbye to the tangible. Goodbye Wolverhampton. Goodbye to Sanford. Goodbye to Cromer. Goodbye to Damascus. The cliff path is slippery from the dew. It's hard to climb with such an infection. I must carve out the bad flesh and sling it from the aerial. I must become infused with the air. I first saw him sat by the side of the road. I was waiting for you to be cut out of the wreckage. The car looked like it had been dropped from a great height. The guts of its engine spilled out over the tarmac. like water aground. They'd stopped the traffic as far back as the Sanford Junction, coming up the hard shoulder like radio waves from another star. It took 21 minutes for them to arrive. I watched Paul time it by the second on his watch. It was as if someone had taken the car and shaken it like a cocktail. The glove compartment had been opened and emptied, with the ashtrays in the boot. It made for a crumpled museum, shattered exhibition. I will become a torch for you, an aerial. I will fall from the skies like ancient radio waves of flawed concrete, through underground springs and freezing subterranean rivers, through the bacteria of my gut and heart, through bottomless boats and forgotten trawlers where nobody has died. Like the hermit and the Lot's wife, I will fossilize, opening up a hole in the rock to admit me through. Dear Esther, this will be my last letter. Do they pile up now on the doormat of our empty house? Why do I still post them home to you? Perhaps I imagine myself picking them up on the return I will not make, and find you with daylight television and all the comfort it brings. They will fossilize over the centuries to follow, forming an uneasy time capsule from a lost island. Postmarked Oban. They must have been sent during the final ascent. Dear Esther, I've burnt all my belongings, my books, this death certificate. Mine will be written all over this island. Who was Jakobson? Who remembers him? Donnelly wrote of him, but who was Donnelly? Who remembers him? I have painted, carved, hewn, scored into the space all that I could draw from him. There will be another to these shores to remember me. I will rise from the ocean like an island without bottom, come together like a stone, become an aerial, a beacon that they will not forget you. We've always been drawn here. Someday the gulls will return and nest in our bones and our history. I will look to my left and see Esther Donnelly flying beside me. I will look to my right and see Jakobson flying beside me. They will leave white lines carved into the air, leading to the mainland where help will be sent.